Hi, I'm DJ Ware. On this episode of the CyberGizmo, we're going to be looking at a secured Linux called Kodachi, and version 6.2 will be the version that we use. Right after this. I've been wanting to look at this one for a while too, and I have used Unix, and I have used Tails, and I have used Cubes. There's a number of other ones, but you know, the Cubes is great. It covers data security and privacy online, but it's a very complex setup. It uses multiple VPNs in order to manage what effectively are enclaves. You have, in Cubes, you have a non-secured enclave, you have an untrusted, there's a kind of a middle road, and then there's a trusted enclave. So you have to be careful on your setup, and you have a lot of choices. You can use Unix that it comes with. It also has Debian, and it also has, I think Fedora is actually in there as well, but it takes quite a bit of time to understand and get your head wrapped around it. You can install other operating systems on it, and you just have to be aware that when you're switching between the various different trusted or untrusted networks, that you remember what colors you have set. Now, the colors that they use are different than the ones that I learned, so it's difficult for me to actually wrap my head around it sometimes, but it does take a sizable investment to learn it. Tails is great for online privacy protection. It has it is basically a throwaway environment. You boot it from a USB. It doesn't really want to be inside of a VPN. It will complain at you a little bit, especially if you're trying to put it under VirtualBox, because if you do put it under a VPN, it really wants one that doesn't have any non-free software installed as part of the VPN, because that could be used to watch what you're doing. But you know, as far as Tails is concerned, it's great for online privacy, but data privacy not so much. It does throw away the environment when you start up again. So anything that you've changed or modified or on the USB, it's gone. So it just resets it. If Unix, I've used a little bit, but I'm really not going to comment one way or the other about it. I just haven't used it enough to be comfortable in trying to give you some advice. Kodachi is a much larger security solution than any of those are. And so I think probably the best thing to do is to just jump over to the website and just take a look at some of the features that are in it. Now, this is based on X Ubuntu, or the XFCE-based Ubuntu, and this is version 1804 LTS. So I imagine their next update will be 2004, I'm guessing, which would be the next LTS version of Ubuntu. Don't know that for sure, but that would be my guess. It is an operating system that is meant to be anti-forensic and anonymous. So anti-forensic means it doesn't leave any trails or any logs or anything for somebody to pick up on and figure out what you're doing. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm condoning that you use this to hack. Not at all. Don't do that. It is a good operating system to use in order to protect your privacy and to keep your data out of the network. The best advice that I can give you to protect your privacy is get off the cloud. Get off of the cloud. Get off of Facebook. Get off of any of the Google tools, Google Docs, any of that stuff. Get off of those. Those things are free for a reason. They're free because they're selling all your personal data. And I think there's probably been enough about that in the various places around the internet. You should at least know that by now. Facebook will track you even if you're not on the site. They use Facebook recognition, or Facebook uses face recognition. Yeah, Facebook recognition. They use face recognition now, so that if anybody's posted an image of you and placed your name under it, they have an image of you. So, you know, that just is so creepy. I don't even want to think about it. But so let's look at some ways that this actually does try to help and protect your privacy. So you can, there's a number of ways that you can set this up. The easiest way is to set it up on a USB stick and then use that USB stick to boot. Now, the USB stick is immutable, so any saves that you make to it, gone. There is a way, however, that you can create a persistent volume using their USB installer tool, and we'll talk about that. But if you do the persistent tool, they recommend that you put the software, the Kodachi software, under a VPN, and then use a virtual hard drive to enable that, and then encrypt that as well. So we'll talk about that. So some of the differences between Kodachi and Tails is that you'll see that there's onion circuits, onion layers, same. There's the MAC address generator, which is the same. They both allow you to spoof the MAC address. They both have RAM wiping. They both have a built-in web browser. One of the differences, though, is Kodachi has a built-in VPN. Also, it supports, this is I2P is, I believe, the old PGP, and it's been wrapped up into a security enclave, so you can use that. If you're sending information across the internet, you can use that to encrypt. There's also a number of wallets for your cryptocurrencies. There's all of those. And then you can use DNS crypt, which encrypts your DNS searches across the internet. There's a multi-Tor exit network. And you'll notice here it says with iCountry exclude feature. What they're talking about there is Five Eyes. Five Eyes is a treaty between 5 countries, the US, Canada, UK, Australia, and New Zealand. And that allows them to exchange freely signals intelligence. And signals intelligence is ELINT and SIGINT. So it's signals and electronic intelligence. It's picking up stuff off the internet. It's picking up stuff off your cell phone, off the radio, the cell phone. Those countries they will exchange information freely. And so one of the features of Kodachi is it doesn't use any exit nodes in countries which are members of the Five Eyes Treaty, because there is suspicion that there is software at the exit nodes that are monitoring what's going on. Now, again, not recommending, I'm not condoning hacking. I'm not telling you to do that. Don't do that. But, you know, if you really are interested in keeping your privacy to yourself, and privacy is part of our freedoms here in the U.S. People say they don't need privacy, are really saying I don't need my freedoms. So privacy is central to a democracy, and especially a free democracy. So there's also multi-DNS options. There's Stacer Linux tuner. I don't really know what that is. I'll have to investigate that. So I may have to get back to you. Arcade Hunter is a rootkit hunter. The last version of it that I used was 1.4.6. It has not been updated since the first of the year. But it will look for rootkits on your system. It'll make suggestions for some security features that you might want turned on. There is a nuke device, and that is part of the persistent store. If you set up a persistent store in Kodachi and you think you've been compromised, there is a button on the storage. Well, I'll show you this, but there's a panic room that you can go to, pull up the storage options, and on there, one of the options is to nuke your storage. If you do that, you're going to be reinstalling Kodachi because it nukes everything. It is part of the nuke and pave the way of managing if you have been attacked and infiltrated. So also it has sync thing. There is an option to wipe RAM as well as the nuke OS again. Bleach bit. There's There's a Nautilus wipe, which wipes all the file history, and also there's KeyPass XE, which is a private held password key user ID and password database. Seahorse and all these things are all part of and also FireJail, which are all part of the security enclaves that you can set up if you choose to. There's a number of other utilities. There's a lot more than are listed here. You also have choices on your file browser that if you want, you can use Nautilus, you can use Thunar, and there's a couple of others that we'll go over. I think Double Commander is one of them as well. So yeah, there's quite a few things you can do here. And then there's some utilities for your desktop, Rumena, and some of those things if you're talking to Windows. Also, there's some utilities and so forth for communicating with other devices on your network. So there's a couple of different. I'm going to jump down here. You can read their site as well as I can. So there's some additional security models I want to talk about. So there's really two of them here that you can look at. The first one is really meant to maintain online privacy. And the second one is meant to be used if you're using email, banking, and cryptocurrency. Keep in mind, though, that if you're using email, your metadata cannot be protected. That would be the things like the to and from and the subject area, all that kind of stuff. That cannot be encrypted because the SMTP protocol, which transfers email through the internet, does not encrypt. It never has. And so just be aware of that metadata can tell a lot more about you than anything else can. So, in fact, one of the NSA tools that was thrown out was just one that just used metadata. So they can create associations through the metadata. So just be aware of that. So one of the things up here that they recommend is you use an ISP to the host machine, to a VPN. And then they recommend using Linux, their version of the browser called Linux Kodachi. And then they also recommend using VMware. I'm going to be using GNOME boxes today, which seems to work with it just fine. Doesn't seem to be complaining about it. And then create a Torified system and then use the Tor DNS and then the Kodachi browser. They claim that that's their best mode. However, they also allow you to run the Tor browser, and that will create a double Tor network. So you have one basically it is all of the network connections go through Tor, and then your browser on top of it is going through a different set of Tor connections. So it of course will it will have a penalty in performance, but if you're really concerned about it, I guess you could do that if you wanted. And then down here, there are some models that you have for if you're using cryptocurrency or you're doing banking and so forth through that. There's some suggestions here. And you'll notice that basically the main difference is the DNS encrypt. So that's really the main difference between this one and this one, looks like to me, in order to give you some additional security. The persistence layer they talk about, there's a utility that you can download called the Universal USB Loader that loads the Kodachi ISO onto a USB with, and there's a couple examples here, but it creates a persistent store that you can use to keep data alive. If you don't set that up, you lose everything between reboots. So. And then it talks about what the nuke does. It has to, in order for the nuke to work, as we have said, it has to be a LUKS encrypted partition. And that's one of the options that you get when you install. It's just like any of the Ubuntu releases where it asks you to encrypt the hard drive and then use LVM. Those come on. If you click on the encrypt, you get the LUKS automatically. So the LVM comes on with it. That's just automatic, but nuke will not work unless you have that set. So just be aware of that. And then there's some installation procedures on how to install it, and then some facts and some notes and stuff that you can look at. But I think probably the best thing to do, as always, is to jump in with both feet and take a look at what it actually looks like here. So I'm going to let me bring this down here so you can see it. So I'm not going to go through the install process. It takes quite a while to install this. Took me about 45 minutes, I guess, to get it installed, and then probably another 40 minutes, 20 to 40 minutes to get it all configured and get things set up and get all the packages updated. So, I mean, obviously, the 1804 is going to have a lot of packages and a lot of security updates as well. So you'll notice that this is XFCE. I have a dock down here. And then I also have my menu bar over on the side. You can put that of course, wherever you want. But one of the other features you have here is this, and this is the screen display, kind of a HUD, a heads-up display. It tells you what your current security posture is set to. Now, I don't use a VPN inside of a Linux machine. I already have a VPN turned on the network, so I don't need to set up VPNs individually. If you'd like to see a video about that, I use pfSense to do that. So if you'd like to see a video of that, be happy to do that. Just let me know in the comments below. And then this is if you're up on Tor, it'll show you the information about, this would be the Torified system. This will show you the IP address at the exit node. And then it'll show you that the exclude 5 eyes is on. So right now, I am not secured because it's not on. You'll notice that it's going through my ISP. So I am not secured yet. So I will have to do that. And then the DNS is using the one that's external to my ISP through the VPN that I'm using. And then there's some general stats and information about the version of the system that I'm using. And then down here, it shows you, this is kind of nice, it shows you the model of the OS that you're using. So I guess I could, yeah, this is fine. I can sit over here. I can sneak over to the side a little bit. And then some system information and so forth. But so you have 2 workspaces that you can use. And also, let's just do a little exploring here. This, I think, is Thunar. It looks like Thunar. It is Thunar. And so you can pick and choose which ones that you want to use. And so let's go kind of through this a little bit. So this is the desktop display. There's an application finder. These are the browsers that are available. There's Firefox, there's Sphere, and there's the Tor browser. And then there's their browser, the Kodachi browser. Over here are the tools for the VPN if you want to use that. So they give you one for free, and it works fine. Also, if you're using any of these, although I wouldn't recommend this one right now since they have been hacked, or I should say, more importantly, they've been compromised. So you might not want to use them for right now until they get that straightened away. Then there's some Tor tools. I can Torify the network, so let's do that. Go ahead and start that. Or I can Torify only with the VPN, or start Tor even if the VPN is off. Normally, I think it will say that you can't do that. I can encrypt my DNS either through DNS crypt or through the Tor crypt. I think I'm encrypting right now through Tor. So yeah, so it's by default the DNS is encrypted through Tor. Some of the security apps that you have, I have Veracrypt is very nice because that will encrypt files on your hard drive, and I have used that in the past. Of course, you've got some messengers, and there's your KeyPass and your Bleach bit. I'm going to look and see what this is. So is it kind of a dash? It's a dashboard for what? Startup app. Oh, okay. So this is kind of a generalized cleaner, kind of a generalized utility. It's probably going to show me what processes are running. Yeah, this is nice. That's nice. Okay, so I see what that is. Some other things you have here are you can start a noisy crawler. You can start one with 5 minutes. This was for 5 minutes. This is for none. You can start up sync thing or SSH, deny hosts, GNU-net, and then this is the PGP network I was talking about earlier. This is RK Hunter. You can time sync. You can block hosts if you want. There's some better ways to do that one through pfSense if you're interested in that. Let's see, this is the full set of apps. You have a whole bunch of wallets up here. That's a wallet. And then you have FileZilla, and there's some of the file system managers right there. You have grsync if you're using rsync. Meld. Not quite sure what that does. I don't know everything. Probably better off not to. Oh, it does file comparison. Okay, got it. Let's see. Catfish, a file search. Looks like we have another file search. VLC. Quite a complete set of applications here. And then it uses Terminator for the terminal menu. We can go down and look at that. Look at some stuff here, like it's a 5.0 kernel, which it would have set up here as well. If you notice that, it's right here. It also has the hardware ID, which is, of course, under a virtual machine, so it's meaningless. And then we'll look at the OS release. And it's Bionic Beaver 1804.3, which is the latest version as of, I think that came out in July? No, September. Came out in September. So that's been around for, so that's good. It's up to date. And then you have some, yeah, I thought I saw some, yeah, there we go. Let's see what we got. Let's bring up. Okay, let's bring up Writer. See what version this is. And not that it really matters. I mean, I don't know if I would make this. Well, it's pretty new. It's pretty new. Now, remember, I've done an update, so it probably picked up that. Let's see. What else do we got? System apps. So we've got a task manager. Looks a little bit like the Macintosh version of the task manager. In fact, the icons look a lot like the Mac top. We're using about 681 meg of memory, so I don't need to give this as much as I have. Not running a lot of tests. It's not really flooding the system. Even with all the security features turned on. So one thing you should know is that if you're using security features in Linux, security never makes things faster. Never, ever. It uses a Synaptic Package Manager. Also, it has GW. Interesting. I wonder if this is the, yeah, that's the GNOME one. I was hoping it was the other one, but oh well. Can't have everything. Software updater, settings. This is probably, yeah, this looks much like the XFCE one. Luminosity of the screen, I suppose. Display on a projector. I don't have one, so I can't do that. But this is the panic room. So this allows me to change all my MAC addresses if I want. Memory tools. I suppose this will do the memory clean. Yep. And IP source. This is the nuke. So this allows me to, I can either set up a new encrypted persistent store, or I can, now just remember, if you do nuke this, if you nuke it, you can watch your system die, because that's what it does. It's like doing an RM minus RF, a slow death. Let's see, screen info. Okay, so if you don't like this stuff that's on the screen back here, all this busy work, if you don't like that, you can turn that off. So if you don't want to see that, you can just flip it off. Or I can turn it back on. It'll take some time to come back up because it has to go requery the system, of course, for all the information that it needs to display. I'll leave it up for now. I can restart. I can install some drivers. These two options are used if you encountering errors. And I did encounter one right after the install where the network went inactive for a minute, and then it was complaining about the IP config file was incorrect. And so I did a repair network, and that straightened it out. So there's probably something on my machine that caused that. I don't think you'll run into it. This thing seems pretty stable and pretty solid to me. And then, of course, you can, if you want the screen font larger, you can set that as well. One of the things here is there's this little security evaluation. I don't think mine will be too great, but because it'll think I'm not running a VPN, even though I am. I got 2 points. I get 10, another 10, 40 points. Wow. VPN, see, I lost points for that one, and the browser is off. So I only get 62, so I have some work to do to improve the score according to this. But it'll kind of give you an idea of your configuration, and then it kind of gives you some suggestions for what you might look at. Now down here you have you have a kind of a view into the system. You can lock the screen, and then this would be the log out, restart, or suspend. There are some tools that allow you to, of course, donate to them, and you probably should. This Wraith has put an awful lot of work into this system. You can clearly see that he has spent some time and has really done a great job with this. So far, for me, this is the most comprehensive one that I have seen, and of all of the choices that I have seen. So let's try their browser. Curious as to what it's actually based on. Firefox, of course. Yeah, I'm still getting that error message here. We'll go ahead and activate it. It doesn't seem to be an effect in anything. It seems to be working okay. At least it was. Let's see. Let's go find out more about Five Eyes. So, yeah, I mean, it's not going to be the fastest thing in the world, but yeah, as you can see, those are the 5 countries that are Five Eyes. And it is somewhere in here it should say SIGINT, because I think that, yeah, signals intelligence. So that is what the treaty allows them to do, and SIGINT encompasses a number of surveillance methodologies that they use. Looks like they also share human, geospatial, that'd be images. And then they don't say anything about OSINT, but I would suspect that's probably true as well. Anyway, let me know what you think about this. Is it something that you would use? Is it Is this something that maybe you would like to use? Now, I do have my system set up with a persistent store. I don't know if it tells you that or not. It probably does. Yep, it does. They're right here. And so let me know what you think about this in the comments below if you enjoyed this. As always, please like and subscribe. I'll probably take a little bit deeper look maybe into Who and learn a little bit more about it myself, and then come back and talk to you about it some more. Tails, there's a lot of videos on Tails out on YouTube, so I probably won't bother to do that one. But as you can see, this is a lot different. There are some some security versions of Unix that are meant for data security. And if that interests you, let me know in the comments below too. I'd be happy to take a look at one of those. So I think that's going to do it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video on Kodachi. I certainly have enjoyed working with it. It is certainly a refreshing change from some of the other systems that are just really difficult to set up and difficult to use. This one has a lot of options. It might seem overwhelming at first, but don't let that get to you. It isn't. It's simple. If you look at the security models that they have on their website, and then you just go turn the options on for the one that you want, that's all you need to do and to worry about. So again, hope you enjoyed this today. Hope to see you again real soon, and bye for now.